Hey guys, Chris here and welcome to a camera comparison now with that POCO X3 NFC that was just launched. So I have actually posted a video on the review of that one and the unboxing, so do check that out on the channel. But it's now time to see how these cameras compare against the other phones from Xiaomi, the POCO F2 Pro and the K30 Ultra as well. So all of these have 20 megapixel front-facing cameras here. Front-facing quality is 1080p maximum here. No electronic image stabilization. As you can see when I walk down these steps here, that it does go kind of all over the place. So in these kind of conditions, let me know in the comments which one you think is best here. Can the X3 compete with the better performing K30 Ultra and the POCO F2 Pro with these kind of conditions? Audio wise, it doesn't actually sound as good because it's using a lower 96 kilobit bit rate without audio, unfortunately. And in this review here, well, comparison, I'll be checking out the rear cameras, of course, low light, ultra wide video quality, and you name it, it's going to be all compared. Now, just to point out that all of these phones are on the latest firmware. I clean the lenses every time I take photos to make sure none of them are at any sort of disadvantage. So this is now 4K video. We'll have a look at the stabilization. So moving around here, they both seem quite similar, but it looks like the K30 Ultra and the POCO F2 Pro are just a little smoother right here with their electronic image stabilization. So focus, I noticed the X3 doesn't seem to focus sometimes as good as the other two. They all seem to exhibit a little bit of panning judder when I pan around. Probably see that coming through. So you do have to take it really quite nice and slow. And I will do a little test of the stabilization here, just jogging ahead. So again, let us know in the comments which one here do you think is the best, has the best stabilization with the 4K 30 frames per second video. Ultra wide now, 4K 30 frames per second is supported on all three of these phones right here. The X3, the K30 Ultra, and the POCO F2 Pro. So very good electronic image stabilization across all three of them. It does seem quite good. Difficult conditions. The sun is starting to set right now, but I'm going to step into the shadow here and I'll do another pan. Now normally with the ultra wides is where we're going to see some of that panning stutter. So which one here is going to have the stutter the most? Is it going to be the weaker chipset with the Snapdragon 732, or is it going to be that MediaTek Dimensity 1000 Plus, or the Snapdragon 865 we have in the POCO F2 Pro? So I'm going to jog ahead now too, just to test the stability. Alright, so this is now the video super steady mode on all three of them. They do support this. And it looks like we are using a different lens here with POCO F2 Pro because it's got much more of a crop compared to the K30 Ultra and the X3 NFC here. So running, jogging ahead. Which one is the most stable right here, pointing at the castle. You can see that sometimes the lights in the background, they do exhibit a bit of flicker here with these Xiaomi, well, POCO phones. So here we have the front-facing camera now in low light on all three of these phones here. It is 20 megapixels and they're doing all a reasonable job here considering it is quite difficult. There's a little bit more grain, of course, coming through. They seem very similar, but I think maybe the POCO F2 Pro or the K30 Ultra is slightly, marginally better here, I believe. Low light 4K, I'm at the markets here that they still have. Of course, everyone's got masks on. Not much distancing going on, but you know, that's just the way it is here. So they look similar here, but I can see already looking at this market store that we're getting so much more details on the POCO F2 Pro and the K30 Ultra, and it's struggling here. I can see the POCO X3. Walking ahead, there are more tremors coming through with our electronic image stabilization, as to be expected. Very difficult conditions for such tiny little sensors without any optical image stabilization. Finally now, ultra wide low light footage. Definitely doesn't look so good on all of these. Of course, very difficult conditions. Again, the sky does look a lot brighter than what it really is. So panning around, one of these phones has a little bit more judder than the other, I think. Alright, so that was a fun comparison to make. Very close in some areas and others, no. So the front-facing video quality, let me start out with that it's poor across all three of them. Not happy with the performance because there's no electronic image stabilization. So if you shoot a lot of vlog video, you are going to need a gimbal. But if I have to pick a winner out of those three, it would be the K30 Ultra. And just to point out that the colors were way off on the POCO F2 Pro with the front-facing video quality. My face looked a little red. This is an issue that we've seen before in some other Xiaomi phones. And then, okay, audio quality. This is subjective, but the POCO F2 Pro definitely had the clearest audio, but at the same time, it picked up, I feel, at times, too much in terms of ambient noise. So I actually preferred the K30 Ultra's audio. Now, both the POCO F2 Pro and the K30 Ultra have a 320 kilobit per second bit rate, but only 96 on the POCO X3. So Xiaomi does need to fix that, just increase it, because the audio quality I find to be scratchy. Now the main video cameras here, due to the stability from its great electronic image stabilization, I think the winner there was the F2 Pro overall. Now the X3, the POCO X3 did actually have the sharpest and brightest video, but the stabilization there just wasn't as good, so that's why I can't pick it as the winner. Now the ultra-wide 4K video, the POCO F2 Pro had the best electronic image stabilization, but again I felt that the X3 was actually sharper and brighter there, but then the electronic image stabilization. The K30 Ultra's ultra-wide was a bit darker there for some reason, and taking a look at the color across video, I think definitely the K30 Ultra has the best color, including photos as well. Now the other thing that was not probably a surprise was the POCO F2 Pro. It didn't have very good ultra steady mode. In fact, the POCO X3 had the better ultra steady mode. I didn't expect this, but hey, it's good to see the POCO X3 winning there with something. So for stills, hands down, this was very easy. The K30 Ultra did a fantastic job. So it had the best colors. It always captured more details and just the more pleasant, overall better looking photos I felt. Including nighttime, the colors were better. However, the POCO F2 Pro was disappointing with the daylight shots, just across the board. However, I did actually like the low light. I think the low light was the win there for the POCO F2 Pro, so it did claw back and get a win here. and it redeemed itself. So that is the camera comparison. Then I hope you did like it. Do you agree with what I feel was the best? Do you agree where I put the trophies as well? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you do check out my unboxing and full review of the POCO X3 and also the Redmi K30 Ultra.